You cannot have a productive conversation with someone who is perfectly fine lying. So here's something, while we're talking about being observant, being enlightened, being detached. I do like that Elon Musk is detached from the Hollywood elite, the media elite. This is the problem with a lot of people in big tech. I don't know if you follow this story, but I've talked about the big tech, right, entertainment, media, industrial complex, because people throw that out with the military industrial complex. They are one and the same, and so often the Zuckerbergs, so often the Jack Dorseys, the Susan Wojcicki's, the Mohans, right, they desperately want to be a part of the cool kids club, and that's why it's this sort of incestuous relationship with journalists. Elon Musk is similar to Trump in this way, and he's not perfect. There have been issues with Twitter, believe me, that's not lost on me. But the spirit of him clearly reviling those in the media and understanding the tactics that they will use is of value. The last person who I witnessed who did it this well was Andrew Breitbart. That's the man on the wall right there. He's the first person to have ever taken I met him because he took one of my old stand-up videos and posted it back on Big Hollywood. Before it was Breitbart anything, it was just bighollywood.breitbart.com, and we became good friends. He understood the media because he was raised in Brentwood and Hollywood, and he understood how to fight back. Elon Musk does a pretty close job. I want you to watch this, and there are a lot of lessons that you can take with it. Here he is with a BBC reporter live interview. We're Wednesday, right? So this was yesterday.
Tuesday night, yeah.
Yeah.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm
just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content, and I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
That's why I'm asking for examples.
Remember, he said that.
Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
Can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why, because I don't actually use that feed anymore because I just don't particularly like it.
You
actually, a lot of people are quite similar. I
don't let him out. Don't give him the out. Elon does.
You've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks, and
well, then how did you see the hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen for you hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yeah, because you can't give a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet, and yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's a false.
No, what I claimed.
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on
other
the rise.
organizations,
now,
right?
Whether it has on my feed or not. I mean, right. And
he's not letting him go. This is important.
Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK, they will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced
It's not getting anywhere. This is what happens with narcissists and sociopaths.
Right,
it's not getting anywhere because they are lying. It's not getting anywhere because you're lying. It would get exactly where this interview should go if you weren't lying. Couple things that he did there, and I'll show you a clip of Andrew Breitbart. Right away, when he knew it was an unfair and loaded question, he pointed it out and asked him why he was asking that question. He defined the terms. Why are you using that term? This is why this is good. If someone is trying to argue in good faith, you can use the Socratic Method and say, well, hold on a second. What do you mean by, slightly sexist content? Now, if someone is arguing in good faith, and you can see this and change my mind, they'll go, well, what I mean is maybe things that might be denigrating women, maybe things that might be perpetuating stereotypes. And then if you don't have a satisfactory answer, you can go down and say, well, what would be perpetuating a stereotype? If it's someone who's not arguing in good faith, they lie and they say, oh, I don't know, it was someone else, right? They appeal to authority. Maybe they use the appeal to authority fallacy, the ad populum fallacy. Well, most of people, other organizations, so asking them, using the Socratic Method, gives you the opportunity to ensure that you understand and they understand whether you are arguing in good faith. And then if they aren't, that's where you keep it on that point. Why? Because this is what would happen if Elon Musk just answered it. He would move on to another attack. He would move on to racism. He would move on to transphobia. So Elon Musk knew, you know what? This isn't going to be productive no matter what. So I'm going to call out the first red herring here. Yeah. And then you stick on it. You cannot have a productive conversation with someone who is perfectly fine lying. And another example of this that I wanted to point to is Andrew Breitbart did this when he was interviewed.
Yeah.
And I don't remember at what point this was where he was being interviewed. The same thing happened when the Anthony Weiner scandal took place. But the man, rather than ask him about the relevant story, decides to ask Andrew Breitbart about his relationship with alcohol. And look what Andrew does right away. You can see the moment on his face where he goes, oh, I know how this is going to go. And he doesn't let it go.
What's your current relationship with alcohol?
Why do you ask?
Just because you talked about it quite a bit in your book.
In what regard?
Socratic Method. Right
Can
there.
you be more specific?
Right.
Two
Well, you
times.
talked about the
Ask for
fact. I mean,
specifics.
I think it's fair to draw from what you wrote in your book that you had an alcohol problem at Tulane.
Misrepresentation.
I didn't have an alcohol problem. I had a great time in college, and I recommend that anybody that go to New Orleans have the time of their lives.
Woodbridge, Virginia.
I graduated 20 years ago, and I'm admitting to my flaws the way that Barack Obama admitted that he did cocaine when he was in college. Would you ask Barack Obama in an interview with him? Would it be one of the 10 questions you ask him? What's your current relationship with cocaine?
No, it's just you talked about it quite a bit. That's where it came from.
So here's the beauty. He asked him why. Socratic Method then said, can you give specifics? Knowing that he absolutely could not give specifics.
Yeah.
Then he explained himself. And then here's what he did. He took something that was hearsay, right? He took a red herring. And then he instead countered it with the truth. It's irrefutable that Barack Obama did cocaine. And then he puts that on the media as far as, I would hope you would ask him that, or he knows very well that he wouldn't, and that he has not. That man very likely interviewed Barack Obama. So what you do is Socratic Method. You allow them to answer for their claims. You ask for specifics. And then rather than just getting into minutia, right, you drill them on that, and then you understand, well, we're not going to go anywhere productive. So let's go somewhere productive based on truth. Barack Obama was someone who did cocaine with, by the way, a convicted domestic terrorist, Bill Ayers. So that is the way that you handle it. Watch these kinds of interviews, look for similar interviews, and take notes. It really is a masterclass.
The best advice
So you want about AI now? You've been dealing with automation for years.
Oh, ChatGP Rickles, how have we been dealing with automation for years?
You walk in a room and everyone else automatically walks out.
Okay, you know what? That's not very
Well,
funny.
I'm sorry. We don't all have writers on staff who can toss our name on there.
Okay, well, we don't have writers here, ChatGP Rickles.
You should. You walked right into that one, dum-dum.
Come on, man.
Shut up, Gerald, you glorified blow-up doll. I wish you were a bottle of wine so I could throw you in a cellar for 50 years.
Jeez.
Then you'd assume room temperature.
That's almost a death threat.
I don't know what he's talking about there.
Oh, is that Callan over there?
Yeah.
With that short hair and beard, you look like a 1960s G.I. Joe.
Oh, well, thanks, I guess. I mean, it's not a
I'd
bad...
love to strap a firecracker to your back and watch you go boom.
Wow.
What?
That's rough.
Callan, you played a gym teacher on TV.
Yeah.
You know what they say? Those who can't do teach. And those who can't teach gym.
Okay.
And those who can't play gym teachers on TV are assholes.
Wow, please.
That's pretty
I
rough.
Did
mean,
you push the spin-off series because of the short shorts?
All right, that's
no,
enough.
I did,
Cut that out.
I was about to say something.
The ChatGPT, I don't know why we didn't uninstall.
It's
the app.
amazing.
Brian, I am sorry.
The
I'm
point
sorry,
I was
man.
trying to make before he got that insulting, I don't know.
We paid for it.
Okay, I know. But the point is that if you're giving anybody who's a public figure, who's about to be a public figure in Hollywood or anywhere else advice, is the press is not your friend.
Right.
And you should always take an antagonistic position. Always. Because the only thing that sells is for them to figure out what your Achilles heel is and expose it. That goes for liberals or conservatives. It doesn't matter, especially conservatives. But if you think the press is your friend, the same machine that brings you to the top of the mountain will send you crashing down.
No,
it's just the nature of the beast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's pressing on something that doesn't exist, right? Pay your fair share, right? Okay, just define your fair share. I don't know. Define your fair share, because I have to understand. You just stay on that point, because if he had answered the question in any other way, like here's what we're doing to fight it, or whatever, it would have been CEO of Twitter declines to comment on how they will change the racist algorithms or the sexist posts that
You
are going
can't
up there.
go along
Not
with
at
a
all.
false premise. You cannot have a conversation because, like you said, they will say, refuses to address sexism when he didn't define what it was. And then when it was put on him, it was, I don't know. And this is why they won't do it with... Of course, this is why former Vice President Joe Biden was in his basement instead of campaigning.
Well, you can usually ignore the noise if you're an actor or something like that. But I think it's getting to the point where you can't ignore. If you let the press take control of the narrative completely without doing what Elon Musk does, then you're in trouble. That's what I worry about.
No, I think you're absolutely... Look, the only way that I know how to handle this is... You have a certain set of kind of guidelines that you follow. Socratic Method first. There are people who do want to have a conversation in good faith. It's even, when people come up and they'll ask for pictures or they say they're a fan, I have a series of questions that I ask to figure out really quickly if they're trolling.
Right.
And it's usually about 70% friendly and 30% who are not.
Yeah.
And I won't necessarily go through what those questions are because I don't want people to be able to try and cheat the test.
Do you want to suck my tongue?
Yes,
That's
exactly.
The first
That's the first one, yeah.
It's sexual as a bowl of white rice.
Yes.
It thins the herd.
Well, I do it so they stick out their tongue, then I grab the pliers.
You got me again.
Sometimes I carry around a cold telephone pole and go, whapa! I should have seen this coming.
Now I'm not horny anymore.
Here's no Dalai Lama. You watched this, Pops Crowder, when I was really young going through this and appearing on media. I can only imagine that you must have been, kind of edge of your seat sometimes when you knew I was in adversarial interviews.
All the time.
They're going, oh, what about this, that you were, one time they tried to say I was the DeVos's, the Van Andel's grandson when I got punched in the face at a Lansing Union rally.
You wish.
They said, well, why were you there, as the DeVos's grandson, or Van Andel, sorry, selling soap? That was one of their questions.
Selling soap?
And I said, selling soap? They said, yeah, because I said, no. What happened was they said, oh, he's the DeVos's grandson. I said, yeah, sure, I'm a soap salesman, whatever, and removed myself. They turned that into, you were saying they were filthy homeless people, union members, and wanted to wash them with soap. And I said, well, hold on a second. What about the guy who committed assault? And they never ran the interview.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is what happens all the time. If you let them lead you down a path with that kind of questioning, you've already lost. Identify who you can have a conversation with. Start with the Socratic Method. And if people do not define the terms, don't waste your time and make an example of them. And I'm really happy to see Elon Musk doing it.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.